Hey, Sean here with Riftbound Risk Taker. I got this great comment yesterday from Mr. Brian on our channel's first video, and I really love to, engage with people who are watching the video. That's like the whole point of making these. And I wanted to talk about the points that he brought up because I think this would be a great video. Him and I went back and forth in a couple of comments, and I think rather than me just typing out paragraphs, it'll be better if I just respond in a video format. So Brian's main argument is that, using top 10 value is kind of like a lazy way or not the best way to, kind of gauge the investability of a set. And I tried to address this a little bit yesterday when I was talking about the depth of the set in Riftbound, but that was definitely lacking in some data. So really looking at the full expected value of these booster boxes is a good way to gauge, how investable something is. The other part that I wanted to expand on, him and I's, little comment conversation is that, Brian is arguing that the most important factor of what drives the price of a booster box is the expected value from ripping it and, getting the value of the cards. And I think that's fairly correct, but I think there are a couple of other factors that are just as important that will impact the price of the booster box, and I wanted to discuss that with you guys here today. So let's get into it. So what I wanted to talk about today is, the expected value. We're just looking at the mid tier from this lovely website that he gave me, the expectedvalue.com. It does Riftbound, Magic, and Pokemon. Those are all we're going to focus on. I wish I did One Piece as well. Then I could put One Piece in here just so we get all the card games that I like and all the card games I'm somewhat knowledgeable on. But this is a great place to start. Origins has an expected value of around $1.95, and if I go to TCG Player, you can buy the box for about $2.20. So $1.95 divided by $2.20 is around 0.9. So that's just what we're going to go with from here. All right. Now, Brian's main argument is that expected value is the only thing that drives the price of these sets, right? And I'm going to say that he's mostly there, but he's just missing a few things. The point that I want to add is that having very exclusive and desirable and expensive cards in the set, even if they're extremely unlikely to hit, also increases the value of a set a lot. And this is the data that I'm going to use to back it up. First, we're going to start with Magic. You don't have to know anything about Magic. You don't have to like Magic, whatever. All right, we're going to look at Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, collector boosters. Collectors is just like, a separate product where you can get better cards, basically, than the play boosters. Play is for playing, collectors is for collecting. That's the summary of it, in my opinion. So here you're looking at a middle set tier value of around $250. And how much are Spider-Man collectors? They're about $368. So you're looking at an EV, I think that's around 65 cents on the dollar. So, it's not as good as Origins, but it's still, relatively high. All right, we're going to go to Final Fantasy, another great set, around $900. Final Fantasy collectors just actually did a leg up to 15. So, we'll use the 15 number. So that gives us around like 60, 65. All right, we're going to do the same thing with Ninja Turtles, right? Ninja Turtles, $275. How much does this go for? $440. It's actually really similar. It's like 70%. So one of them has serialized cards. But then what I wanted to do, I didn't put it up here, but I wanted to compare it to Lord of the Rings as well. So Lord of the Rings is the other set in Magic, right? It's extremely expensive, and of course it's very, very old. Now it also has a lot of serialized cards, and the boxes are currently going for $7,000. But the expected value is only around $600. That's an expected value of, less than 10%. I know the boxes just did a run up there, sitting around 5,000 before, but still, you're looking at an expected value of around 10%. So if we are trying to apply, the same argument, why is this box so expensive? Well, there's a couple of factors. One, you have really expensive cards in there to chase, and then two, of course, is time and supply. So really the full breadth of this argument that I want to make to, add color to the comment that I got earlier is, yes, expected value is really important, but if expected value is the only thing that we need to, determine how much a box should cost, well then Lord of the Rings collectors should be, in the similar range to other Magic products. Even Final Fantasy with serialized chocobos is still at around like 70% expected value, 65, 70% expected value. So if we go to Lord of the Rings, well then what would we expect this box to be at? Well, we'd expect this box it would be lower than Final Fantasy, which doesn't make any sense, right? You're going to get more value out of Final Fantasy than you are out of Lord of the Rings. So you would expect this box to actually be cheaper than, Lord of the Rings. Cheaper than Final Fantasy, sorry, which, just isn't the case. So you have these two other factors that we're taking into account. You have these super high chase cards in Lord of the Rings. Of course, you have your serialized borderless foils, those are the ones that are super expensive. Those are the ones that are like $25,000 to $30,000 in PSA 10s, BGS 10s, etc., etc. Those chocobos are really expensive in Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy is also much newer than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a much lower supply, and so here is, two other things that can influence, what a box costs. And so now we've kind of identified three major areas as to what drive the cost. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it for this video in terms of, what drives the cost of cards. There are, of course, so many more, but we're just going to break it down to three for now, because I think these three are the most important. Because now we're going to go into Pokemon. And we're going to look at Ascended Heroes. We're looking at Ascended Heroes ETBs. What is the expected value? It's around $43. And what does an Ascended Heroes ETB cost? About $165. So that's a 25-cent, expected value. So every dollar you spend, you are losing 75 cents on your dollar. Let's look at Black Bolt. Black Bolt, $53. Currently selling for $190. It's actually in the similar range as Ascended Heroes. You're looking at around 0.25 to 0.3 in terms of your expected value on these. Now we're gonna go back to Riftbound. I know that's why we're here. But I think it's really important when you're assessing these new card games, you have to try and find data to back up your claims. And we're gonna pull from some of the other more established card games. You got Pokemon, you got Magic. Again, want to do One Piece. I should probably find a website that does One Piece as well. But let's go to Spirit Forged, right? We're looking at the booster box here. What's our expected value? $74. And what is our booster box price? Spirit Forged is currently at, is it really that expensive? There's no way, right? Wow, it's getting bought up. It's around $145. So, not as good as some of these Magic sets, for sure, but still at around 50 cents. 50 cents on the dollar. And then Unleashed, let's go look at Unleashed. Unleashed also at around 76, and Unleashed yesterday was only around 110, but other people really might start making moves on this now. Okay, it's still 105. So you're still looking at 70 cents on the dollar here. So, what do I want the takeaway of this video to be? Is that expected value, good way to judge cards. It's not the only way to judge, what these booster boxes should be worth. And honestly, this just makes me even more bullish on Origins in general. Like, the only caveat that you can really take with this website, where'd it go? The only real main caveat that I would have for this website is maybe some of its math is a little funny. It's taking TCG player. I tried to leave all of these threshold settings the same. Nothing seemed absolutely crazy in terms of how it's setting up any of its math. It's just taking things off a TCG player. So some of the singles might be a little overpriced, but I totally forgot to say this at the beginning. This expected value doesn't include signatures. This expected value doesn't include signatures, sitting at $194. And Mr. Brian was nice enough. I trust his math, but Mr. Brian was nice enough to say, I checked his math on the pull rates. He got the right pull rates for the signatures, but it adds about $30 in expected value to this if you include the signatures, which makes the EV of the set actually basically 1, which is actually quite incredible for an original set. I started going on eBay trying to find some more listings for the booster box cases, because this is just making me even more bullish, and I haven't picked any up yet. I picked up a couple singles today, actually. I picked up the signature Bard from Spirit Forge today, so I got that guy, and then I picked up a non-signature Kaisa in a PSA 10 as well. I think that card was actually a little bit undervalued, and yeah, but that's not part of the sealed investing play. I just wanted to make this video to, really give the case for Origins. I think Origins is a screaming buy right now, and if I didn't have the price paralysis from buying them at a cheaper price earlier, I really should go buy more at this stage. I should, and of course, not financial advice, but I'm really keeping this in mind as I start to figure out what I'm going to do for deploying capital over the summer. I'm still doing Pokemon investing, I'm still doing One Piece, I'm still grading, still keeping money for the vending business, But, I've got my toes dipped everywhere, and yeah, this was a really fun video to make. And yeah, I think Origins is really primed to go up. I think the only thing that is really keeping me in my place is watching some of those Anon TCG videos where he is kind of saying that there is another reprint on the water that might be coming soon. I don't have distribution access. I'm not at that level. I'm just a small-time, vendor, investor, grader, whatever you want to say. And, what happens to these booster boxes if we get another wave? Like, if I buy right now at, around, $1,400 a case, which is still a pretty good buy, are they going to go back down to 1,000? We get another giant wave and restock 3? I know it's not the right way to think about it, but, we're all human at the end of the day, and that's what, and that's what it's like being human, right? You're afraid that you're going to buy at a higher price than it was. Like, this is at 180. This is what my entry point was. And so, it, of course, feels bad to pay 20% higher. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our little talk on expected value and why, I think that expected value is important, but expected value is not the be-all, end-all for determining the price of a booster box. So yeah, thanks, Brian, for the comment. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your comment and anybody else's comment. Cheers. Have a great day, guys.